When it comes to buying a snowmobile, we all want to feel like we're making a smart investment. But reliable isn't just about whether an engine holds together. Sometimes the real risk is a stuck throttle. Sometimes it's a bill you didn't see coming. And sometimes, as you'll see at the very end of this list, it's a brand that simply won't be there in 5 years. We're counting down 17 snowmobiles we're thinking twice about, starting with everyday annoyances and working our way up to the recalls and long-term risks that actually matter. Number 17. Ski-Doo Skandic. The Skandic is Ski-Doo's utility hauler built for towing, ice fishing gear, and breaking trail through deep snow, rather than for speed. It's the sled dealer's point trappers, ice fishing guides, and backcountry property owners' toward, because it's genuinely tough and rated to carry real cargo weight. The catch is that toughness comes with mass. This is one of the heaviest sleds Ski-Doo makes, and owners consistently describe it as a handful the moment you get stuck off-trail, since there's simply a lot of machine to dig out, or muscle around by hand. There's no safety recall history on the Skandic. This is purely a know-what-you're-buying issue, not a defect. If your riding is mostly groomed trails and weekend fun, that weight buys you nothing. You'd be better served by a lighter trail sled. If you're actually hauling gear or breaking your own trail through untouched snow, the Skandic earns its keep, and the weight is the trade-off you're paying for. But at least the Skandic is honest about what it is. The next sled talks a much better game than it delivers. Number 16. Ski-Doo Grand Touring. The Grand Touring is Ski-Doo's dedicated comfort sled. Heated seats, heated grips, a smooth ride, and generous storage built for uprighting rather than aggressive trail work. It's aimed at couples and older riders who want a long day on groomed trails without beating up their backs. No CPSC recall exists for this model, so there's no safety case against it at all. The trade-off is cost of ownership. All those comfort features, heated components, extra electronics, additional storage hardware, are more parts that can fail, and each one is more expensive to diagnose and replace than the equivalent part on a stripped-down trail sled. That's not evidence the Grand Touring breaks down more often. It's simply that when something does need attention, the bill tends to be higher. If comfort is genuinely the priority, it remains a reasonable choice. Just budget for maintenance beyond what a base trail model would cost you, and factor that into resale math if you're buying used. Number 15. Arctic Cat Bearcat. Arctic Cat's big utility tourer is roomy, comfortable, and built along the same haul more, carry more logic as the Skandic above. It's aimed at riders who want two-up touring with real storage rather than outright performance. Older Bearcats have a solid reputation among longtime owners. The newer generation is where opinions split. Some owners report electrical issues early in ownership on forums, though there's no reliable survey or recall data on how widespread that actually is. Just anecdotal sentiment, not a documented pattern. Combined with its weight, which creates the same off-trail recovery problem as the Skandic, it's worth a thorough pre-purchase check of the electrical system if you're buying a newer generation Bearcat used, since you won't have manufacturer data to fall back on if something's already wrong. Electrical gremlins are annoying. What's coming next is a sled where the manufacturer itself no longer exists in the market, and that changes the math on buying used. Number 14. Yamaha Vector. The Vector was Yamaha's naturally aspirated touring sled, discontinued years before Yamaha's full 2023 exit announcement. Buying one today means buying used, full stop. There's no new unit option regardless of budget. Whether you get a factory warranty depends entirely on the specific unit. Some carry transferable coverage, others don't, so check machine by machine rather than assume either way going in. Some owners report electric start issues on older units, though that's not backed by any formal recall or manufacturer bulletin. Treat it as an owner-reported pattern to inspect for, not a confirmed defect. Because the model is long out of production, parts availability is the real question mark on a used Vector. Ask your dealer or a Yamaha parts specialist how deep their stock runs before you commit, since Yamaha's promise to keep supporting existing owners doesn't guarantee every part stays in stock forever. Number 13. Yamaha SR Venture. Yamaha's other touring model, also out of production. Unlike the Vector, there's no notable pattern of owner complaints on the SR Venture specifically. It lands on this list mainly because of what buying any Yamaha means going forward, not because of anything wrong with the sled itself. Yamaha has publicly committed to continuing parts and service support for existing owners, so this isn't a "you're stranded" situation, the way an orphaned brand can be. But there's no next-generation SR Venture coming, no ongoing model development, and no telling how deep dealer parts inventories will stay over the next 5 to 10 years. Ask your dealer directly how long they expect to keep stocking SR Venture-specific parts before you buy, especially if you're planning to keep the sled long-term. Number 12. Yamaha Sidewinder. Yamaha's turbocharged flagship, built around a 998 cubic centimeter 3-cylinder engine, shared with Arctic Cat, genuinely one of the most powerful engines in the segment, and the sled that closed out Yamaha's Snowmobile lineup with real performance credibility rather than a whimper. Some owners on Yamaha-specific forums report coolant intrusion into the oil on the turbo engine, though this isn't confirmed by any recall or manufacturer bulletin, so treat it as an owner-reported pattern, worth investigating rather than an established defect. Given how highly stressed a turbocharged engine is compared to a naturally aspirated one, a cooling system issue matters more here than it would on a milder sled. Coolant in the oil can quietly wreck bearings long before a rider notices a performance drop. If you're shopping a used Sidewinder, a thorough cooling system and oil inspection before purchase is worth the cost. And given the shared engine platform, comparing notes with Arctic Cat 9000 series turbo owners can be a useful diagnostic shortcut. Number 11. Yamaha Viper. The Viper carried Yamaha's final edition badging alongside the Sidewinder in the brand's last ever model year, but it's the naturally aspirated sibling rather than the turbo flagship. Less power, less drama, and correspondingly milder reliability complaints. What owners report is mostly gauge cluster display quirks rather than anything mechanical, nothing close to the Sidewinder's coolant concerns. It's included here for the same forward-looking reason as the Vector and SR venture above. No future models are coming, so parts availability rather than mechanical risk is the real long-term consideration. If you're choosing between a used Viper and a used Sidewinder purely on reliability grounds, the Viper's simpler non-turbo engine is arguably the safer bet. You're trading the Sidewinder's power ceiling for one less system that can go wrong. Quick note before we keep going. If you've made it this far, subscribe now, because the back half of this list is where the actual safety recalls start. Number 10. Arctic Cat Riot 2017 to 2022 models. The older generation Riot, built on Arctic Cat's 8000 series engine platform and sold new for roughly $15,100 to $18,900, was hit by two separate real recalls. In June 2023, Textron recalled about 8,350 US units of 8000 series snowmobiles. Riot included alongside the ZR, M, and Norseman, since the recall didn't differentiate by model. Because a fuel rail dampener snap ring could loosen and leak fuel, a fire hazard, the CPSC logged 9 fuel leak reports and 1 fire before the fix. Then in May 2024, a second unrelated recall covered about 16,200 units of model year 2017 to 2021, plus some 2022, 8,000, 9,000 series sleds, Riot again included, over a primary drive clutch that could break and send fragments through the shielding. 2 distinct defects, 2 distinct recalls, same generation of sled, both with free dealer repairs. If you're looking at a pre-2024 Riot, checking the VIN against both recalls, not just one, is non-negotiable, and confirming the repair paperwork exists is worth as much as the inspection itself on a used purchase. Number 9. Arctic Cat ZR 2024 Catalyst Chassis. This is a different generation from the older 8000 series Arctic Cats mentioned above. Arctic Cat redesigned the platform for 2024 under the Catalyst chassis name. Sold new for about $13,800 to $16,100. That brand new generation had its own brand new problem. In May 2024, Textron recalled about 2,670 model year 2024 Catalyst 600 snowmobiles, badged ZR, Riot, and Mountain, because the steering caps holding the handlebars in place could crack during the torquing process at initial setup, risking loss of steering control. Arctic Cat logged 95 dealer-reported incidents of caps cracking during setup, though no injuries. The fix is straightforward and free, and the affected VINs carry an R as the 10th character, making them easy to identify. It's a separate issue from the older Riot's clutch and fuel problems above, and worth knowing if you assumed new chassis automatically meant fixed. A full platform redesign resets the reliability clock. It doesn't guarantee it. Number 8. Polaris Titan. Polaris's deep snow adventure sled. Built around a 998 cubic centimeter twin-cylinder ProStar S4 engine making roughly 100 horsepower, and sold new for about $16,100. It was hit by a narrow but serious recall. On May 2, 2024, Polaris and the CPSC recalled about 240 US units of the 2024 ProStar S4 Titan Adventure 155 ES specifically. That trim sold between August 2023 and March 2024 over a fuel leak at the pump flange assembly gasket, with 3 reports of leaking fuel logged before the fix. Polaris issued a full stop ride notice, and the repair, replacing the gasket, takes about 75 minutes at a dealer. It's a real fire hazard recall given how close the leak point sits to a hot engine, but a small one, limited to a single trim and model year, rather than the whole Titan lineup. A base Titan or a different Titan trim from the same years isn't automatically affected. Number 7. Polaris Voyageur. Polaris's long-track touring sled, built on the Matrix platform with Patriot 650 and 850 engines, and sold new in the $14,000 to $16,000 range depending on trim. It was swept into a much larger clutch problem. On February 22, 2024, Polaris and the CPSC recalled roughly 9,200 US units across several Matrix platform sleds. The 650 Matrix Voyageur 146, model years 2022 and 2023. Among them, over a primary drive clutch that could crack at the post and separate from the machine. An injury hazard. This was actually the fourth action in an ongoing process that started with a Polaris stop sale in July 2023, and Polaris later expanded the recall again in May 2025 to cover more units and flag some previously repaired sleds for a second repair. That history matters for a used buyer. A Voyageur that was already recalled and fixed once may still need checking against the expanded population. Check the VIN against the current list, not an old one. Number 6. Polaris Indy. Polaris's popular trail sled, and by far the most common model, swept into that same February 2024 clutch recall. The 650/850 Matrix Indy, model years 2022 and 2023, part of the same roughly 9,200 unit US action, described above for the Voyageur. Because the Indy is Polaris's high-volume trail sled, rather than a niche touring or mountain model, more of these are on trails right now than any other model on this list, which makes the checking your VIN advice more urgent here than almost anywhere else. The clutch failure mode is the same regardless of which Matrix model it's installed in, post-cracking that can let the clutch or its components separate from the sled at speed. So an Indy owner who's never had trouble isn't necessarily in the clear. The defect doesn't always announce itself with symptoms before it fails. Number 5. Ski-Doo Renegade. Ski-Doo's sporty crossover sold new for roughly $10,000 to $18,000 depending on trim and engine. On February 29, 2024, BRP and the CPSC recalled about 8,100 US units of model year 2024 Renegade and MXZ snowmobiles equipped with Pilot X skis, after a manufacturing flaw in one specific mold cavity, stamped AC2 on the ski, distinct from the unaffected AC1 and AC3 cavities, caused some left skis to crack or break during use. The CPSC logged 27 US reports of ski breakage and 1 Canadian injury before the fix. The repair itself is quick, under an hour, and free, replacing the affected left ski. BRP also looked at offering the Pilot 5.7 ski as an alternative part during the parts shortage that followed. This is specific to 2024 models with Pilot X skis. Check the ski itself, not just the model year, since not every 2024 Renegade left the factory with that ski option. Earlier model years aren't affected at all. Number 4. Ski-Doo MXZ. The MXZ shares that exact same Pilot X recall with the Renegade above, same defective mold cavity, same February 2024 action, same 8,100 unit population, same free repair. What separates it here is how the sled gets used. The MXZ is Ski-Doo's aggressive trail performance model, ridden harder and faster than a touring sled like the Grand Touring, which makes a ski failure at speed a more serious proposition on this model than on a machine that spends most of its life cruising. If you own a 2024 MXZ with a Pilot X ski, this isn't optional maintenance. Check the AC2 stamp on the back of the left ski near the spindle mount. And if it's there, don't ride until the dealer swaps it. The next one just happened, it's still actively being repaired at dealerships, and the failure mode is scarier than a broken ski. Number 3. Lynx Rave. BRPs. Lynx brand shares engines and chassis with Ski-Doo, sold new in roughly the same $10,000 to $20,000 range as comparable Ski-Doo models, and it shares recalls too. In March 2025, BRP recalled about 4,144 US units of certain 2025 Lynx Rave models, along with a wider list of 2025 Ski-Doo models, equipped specifically with 600 RE-Tech, 850 E-Tech, or 850 E-Tech Turbo R engines, after finding that the engine control module's lower mount support could break during production. Not every 2025 Rave is affected. only those with these specific engines. BRP logged 4 reports of stuck throttles from the issue before the recall, with no injuries reported. A loose fragment of the broken bracket could migrate into the throttle body and cause a stuck throttle. Loss of control at speed, not a minor inconvenience, which is why BRP told owners to stop riding entirely until the roughly hour-long free inspection and repair was done. This is one of the most recent and most serious recalls on this entire list. And if you're buying a 2025 Rave used right now, confirming the repair is documented matters more than almost anything else on the checklist. Number 2, Polaris RMK. Polaris's dedicated deep snow mountain sled, the 650/850 Matrix RMK. Model years 2022 through 2024, part of the same February 2024. Clutch recall described under the Voyager and Indy above. It's the same defect, the same roughly 9,200 unit action, the same free repair. But the stakes are genuinely higher here because of how a mountain sled gets ridden. RMK owners lean on the clutch far harder and more often than a trail rider does, climbing steep terrain and deep powder where the engine is working near its limits for extended stretches. That's exactly the kind of sustained clutch stress that makes a cracking post more likely to fail, and exactly the kind of remote off-trail terrain where a clutch separating at speed is hardest to deal with and hardest to get help for. If you're buying a used RMK, treat the VIN check as mandatory rather than optional, and don't assume a sled that's run fine so far is in the clear. This failure mode doesn't reliably announce itself before it happens. Number 1. Yamaha, the entire lineup. This last one isn't a broken part. In June 2023, Yamaha officially announced it was exiting the snowmobile business worldwide, with the 2024 model year the last available in Europe, and model year 2025 its final production run in North America, closing out 57 years in the industry since the 1968 SL350, confirmed straight from Yamaha's own announcement. To be clear, Yamaha has committed to continuing parts and service support for existing owners, so this isn't a "you're stranded" story the way it would be for an abandoned brand with no support plan. But there's no new model pipeline, no future Yamaha snowmobile development currently planned. And dealers themselves have said the transition will play out over the next 2 to 3 years as they figure out how to replace snowmobiles as a share of their business. That's not a reliability defect in the mechanical sense. It's a long-term buyer risk around parts availability, resale value, and dealer support that compounds every year further from 2025. And it's exactly why this list needed a category beyond what breaks. A recall doesn't automatically make a sled bad, but it does mean buyers should check the exact model year, VIN, and repair history before paying. Subscribe for the next video where we cover the snowmobiles actually worth your money.